I'm here today at Hedingham Castle, and this absolutely magnificent 900-year-old Norman keep still survives. It stands in 160 acres of landscape gardens and woodland, and it's also home to the Lindsay family, so I cannot wait to find out more about its history. Jason and Demetra Lindsay will be giving you a tour of the historic 900-year-old keep, which dominates the surrounding East Anglian landscape.
So this is where you get the view.
I'll get some surprises along the way.
No.
What?
So that's...
Oh my gosh. As I continue my visit, it's the Georgian period which inspires.
This, in 1719, was a brand new mansion.
Right.
I mean, this has become the generic building style for millions of houses.
And fascinating family connections to what could be the bard himself.
He may have been the author of the Shakespeare plays. That might actually be the only painting of Shakespeare in existence.
When I married into the British aristocracy, it was the start of a wonderfully exciting journey. But it was also a little daunting. I became a Viscountess, and for an American girl from a small town outside Chicago, that was quite a shock. I live with my husband Luke, heir to the Earl of Sandwich, and our family at Mapperton House in Dorset. Living in a place like this is a joy, but also a challenge. And every day we're aware that we're preserving a very special part of Britain's heritage. Mapperton has opened up an extraordinary new world for me, and I can't wait to share it with you all. So if you love castles and manors and stately homes as much as I do, please join this American Viscountess as I journey into the British countryside in search of some of Britain's finest historic houses. Hello. Hello. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me. So nice to see you. It's warm, it's sunny, it's blue, and the wisteria.
Thank you for bringing the weather. But, the wisteria is amazing.
We told it to wait till you got here.
Okay, thank you so
Yeah.
much. I really
Full bloom.
appreciate
Did you
it.
breathe in?
I did.
As well?
I can't say
wow.
I do all the cutting. Come on in. Come on in.
Through to the chaos of the kitchen.
I love the kitchen in historic houses because it is kind of the most lived-in room, isn't it?
It is
And this
the
looks-
center of the hub, yeah.
Look at
You're gonna have
pictures
some
everywhere,
coffee.
drawings. Oh, yes, please. But can I just say, walking up, it's like two distinct periods of history. This house, which I'd love to know more about, with the lovely wisteria, and then this enormous Norman keep.
It's extraordinary because we got the 12th century castle, the remains of an enormous fortification. And then in about 1710, someone else bought it, demolished all the ruins around the keep, and built this house.
Right.
And this is dated 1719, so this is early Georgian Queen
yeah.
Anne, basically.
It's so incredible that the history is 900 years old, although we know that there were settlements here before that.
Right.
So we have the Saxons, the Saxon Thane Ulwine was booted out by the Normans when they came. And so it just goes back and back and back, and you can really feel that atmosphere.
So the keep obviously still survives.
It's the best preserved keep in Western Europe.
It was built as a fortress, obviously, but
Right.
in those days they built them to show off as well, so they're real status symbols.
Right.
So
So that survived, and then, but around it, you said it was pulled down, or it was...
Well, it lasted 500 years,
Right.
basically. So by the sort of 17th century, the family had sort of moved away a bit, and people were robbing the stone, because there's no stone in Essex. All that stone had to come nearly 70 miles. So it was like covering in gold. It was like having a sort of pyramid, but covered in gold.
Right. And so they just wanted to take it, so they just thought, we're going to pull it down, and we're going to build something here in 1790s.
Yeah, so in that period it did really collapse. There was a massive Tudor palace actually built in the 1490s. So we have wonderful sort of maps and plans of all the sort of buildings then. And that was for Henry VII's visit.
Okay.
After Battle of Bosworth. So that was incredible, a bit like Hampton Court.
Right.
And then that didn't last very long. And then Queen Elizabeth came here in the 1560s. Henry VII was here for a week in the 1490s. Henry VIII came here.
Okay, so there's a lot of royal connections here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we had a Queen Matilda died here in 1152. We're not quite sure which room, but we like to think it was somewhere in the keep, but it was probably in one of the royal chambers around the building.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And how many rooms does the keep have? Because it's just enormous.
It is enormous, but it's like a TARDIS, so it's bigger on the inside. But we must come and
Okay,
show you.
yeah. I'd love to.
Do you know, maybe we should have our coffee. We should take it over.
Yeah,
Do you think?
fantastic. Yeah.
Let's do that.
We walk
Brilliant.
and talk.
We can walk and talk.
Hedingham Castle was built around 1140 by Jason's ancestor, Aubrey de Vere, Lord Great Chamberlain of England, and has witnessed the turbulence of medieval English history. This bridge we're going over, I always question about bridges because I think that they've been here for centuries.
Well,
Am I right?
this was a drawbridge originally with the Norman castle, but this was replaced in the 1490s to celebrate Henry VII's visit, because he came here for a week after the Battle of Bosworth and after Richard III had been defeated, and he built this amazing Tudor castle all around here, giving
There
everything
would have
back.
been brick walls all the way around the outside of the Bailey.
And it would have been a magnificent Tudor palace like Hampton Court. You have to imagine all this full of buildings. It was a huge complex of buildings within a wall.
In a wall, yes. Wow, this is just incredible to walk here and know that what king was here, what queen?
So we've had Queen Matilda, we've had Henry VII, Henry VIII, Elizabeth I.
My God.
We've also had Queen Emma of Hawaii.
Yeah, that's quite a good
Did you?
idea.
There was a queen of Hawaii before it became a part of the United States?
In about 1860, I think.
Oh yeah, that would be, yeah. So, wow. So
this is the Bailey where we now do jousting, but this would have had a banqueting hall on it there.
right.
And the kitchen's over there, and this was a sort of courtyard in one point, and the chapel was
Beautiful
there.
Norman chapel over there. There's a well somewhere over there. Massive walls all the way around it. And huge industry. Imagine all the people here.
Yeah.
You know, the armourer, the medical person.
And we're standing on top of the dungeon.
Oh.
So the dungeon was down there.
Oh my.
And this was the guards' room.
Oh my gosh.
And then that is the amazing doorway, which is an incredible bit of Norman sculpture. They call that decoration sculpture, but it's
that chevron
incredibly
moulding.
beautiful.
It's chevron molding, because that's kind of how you know it's Norman, is that right?
Yes.
So you had the best stonemasons come over from France, because the De Veres were Norman, very well-known Normans. They came over with William the Conqueror.
Right.
And he actually married Beatrice, his half-sister.
He married William the Conqueror's half-sister.
Beatrice, yeah.
Okay.
And they were then entitled by Empress Matilda in the 1140s, wasn't it? Yes. That he became the first Earl of Oxford. And it was the longest-lasting medieval title. There were 20 Earls of Oxford.
Oh
And
my goodness.
normally you died, you got beheaded because you backed the wrong king, you died of the plague, or you died in battle. So for them to last 550 years, I
They
think
were
it was.
quite slippery. They did swap
Yeah,
sides.
they were quite.
They did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they had to be
To
quite
save their
wily.
heads.
Yes.
And a few of them did get beheaded and cut to pieces, and we found in the Tower of London, in that chapel, they're buried under anyone who was beheaded for treason was
Any
then
aristocrat that was
the slab was
Right.
lifted. They sprinkled in lime or something, and then the slab was reclosed.
No.
And Queen Victoria was so horrified, she had the slab lifted. It's in the church in the corner of the Tower of London, and she said, "I want them all exhumed. I want to try and identify as many of them as possible." And they worked out 35 of them, and the other 40 weren't identified. There's now a plaque on the wall of each one they identified,
Oh my goodness.
and they didn't find the Earl of
the
Oxford.
saddest place.
Oh,
It has
where-
the most
was one of
incredible
your
atmosphere.
forebears?
Yeah, well, the 12th Earl of Oxford and his oldest son were executed for treason, and the son was executed 4 days before his father, so that the father would know that his son and heir had been brutally, and I mean brutally, they cut you up, you bled very slowly to death, they eventually chopped your head off, put it on Traitor's Gate, and the body was shoved in this hole in the chapel. I mean, it's the most awful bit of English history.
Yeah, it really is.
And when you're standing there, you're thinking, my goodness, where where is the body? And you're kind of, they didn't find the Earl of Oxford. And maybe they brought the headless body down here. Maybe they repatriated it with his head.
Oh
But brutal times, Wars of the Roses, you know.
Yeah, War of the Roses, exactly.
Absolutely horrific.
Let's go inside.
All right, let's go in, yes.
I want to see your reaction to the next bit.
It's very easy because the portcullis isn't here anymore. Normally it would have been, what's the password? And then the portcullis would have been wound up through that groove.
Right. Oh.
But we won't drop it today.
Okay, don't drop it.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yes, okay, yes.
It's good to have
There
the
we go.
slot, isn't it?
There we go. Hedingham was built as a defensive castle. And where better to get a sense of the true medieval function of the building and the landscape it commanded than up on the roof. First of all, how many steps?
We think there are 100 steps.
Yeah.
So it's very good at keeping you fit if you're restoring the roof.
And they're quite steep steps, so you will be out of breath within about 5 seconds.
And isn't it kind of going in a different
Yes,
direction?
so this is clockwise, and
Then
most
I
people are
would've-
right-handed.
Yes.
And the reason for that, if you were defending and I was attacking, you're going to hit the central post with your sword. And the
Whereas
person
I have got all that space to
see.
cut you down. So this is where you
my
get
goodness.
the view.
This is, and it's okay to walk on the lead roof?
Yes, dear. You've got flat shoes. That's
Yep.
all
Yeah,
good.
no high heels.
Yes, no,
Yeah.
absolutely not. I'd go right through, or that heel would. This is incredible. So obviously this was built to, I mean, it was a great spot, defend
Can't you
all
see
the
everything?
invaders. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And,
Well, they had
and
spies. They did have spies everywhere.
they did, okay.
So I think by the time you didn't sort of go with your, well, you didn't have binoculars, but go,
Right.
oh my goodness, the French are coming.
Yes.
You know, I
Well, you
think
could generally see the fires, couldn't
you
you?
fires and you
Yes,
had spies.
and you could spy.
And you
yes.
were kind of ready for them. But this did have a perimeter wall around it with 2 more towers. So you can see
Right.
where the wall would have gone to.
Okay,
And probably sentries, probably a staircase in there, so even higher for them.
Okay.
And they had 4 of these towers. We've only got 2
right.
now. And it's still all this Barnack stone from next to Burley House, you may know of.
Yeah, of course, Burley.
So there's a quarry there that they know the stone came from.
Okay, so what work have you had done here? Because obviously this lead roof, what was here before?
So there was a lead roof here, but we've redone it in 1985-ish.
Okay.
Isn't it?
When you took over, when did you start taking over custodianship, or however we want to call it, as
here
HH
in,
members?
2004.
Moved
Yeah.
2004.
So we're
Yes.
20-year anniversary. pretty
Yes.
well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and with actually I was pregnant with number 1, so we then had 3 children because we had twins in 2 years. So we moved and we didn't do much, did we, at the beginning? And then of course when you think you're going to do something to a Scheduled Ancient Monument, which this is, you have to ask Historic England for every drawing pen you think you're going to put in the
Yes.
You
building.
have to get the Secretary of
So
State. You have to
to-
get permission from him or
with
her.
a Scheduled Ancient Monument consent.
It's the highest
So-
listing in the land. You know,
Yes.
it's above grade 1.
Oh my, so what's it called?
It's a Scheduled Ancient Monument.
Okay, I'm going to say it
Yes.
the American way. Scheduled Ancient
No,
Monument.
scheduled.
Scheduled.
Yeah. Schedule.
But when we got here, the electrics were completely finished, and there was no loos. You know, no one had sort of
Heating.
modernised it.
There was
Yes.
nothing really here,
Yeah.
so you couldn't make
So
it commercially viable.
It took us
when you
about
arrived.
7 years to do the run up to the great big project that we eventually
No.
finished in 2015.
Oh my gosh.
Because we had to get, you know, they had to know what we wanted to do. They had to believe in our vision. They had to get
All
on
the
board.
permissions.
All
Yeah.
the permissions then subsequently. And then, you know, and you
Architectural
can't do
reports,
them
we had
all.
to get
Yes.
architectural specialists. We wanted to take out a wall in the basement.
So, did you feel, I mean, I'm looking around here and you've got this sort of community. You can see the community from everywhere. Were they very supportive of what
Really
you wanted to
supportive.
do?
Loving, because this building is open to the public. And
Right.
if it had to be sold, someone would buy it as a private house or a hotel.
Right, right.
And there would
yeah.
be no,
And they'd never get back in.
there'd be no events. There would be no public access.
Right.
They
No
would,
church
you know,
cocktail parties.
No,
you
and
know,
it wouldn't have
all of
been
that.
owned by the family that's been here since
Yeah,
Well,
since,
10
1067 really.
And all the children who go to school in the village, they all come up here on their school trips because it's a little walk.
And they'll dress
And
up
it's
in
such
little
fun.
in the tabards, and we have medieval days. We're trying to create a sustainable business. In the late 90s, the government changed the rules so that you could have weddings
Yeah, I
in a
remember.
building, not in a registry office.
Right.
And that was a kind of renaissance moment for all houses within historic houses, the association, because suddenly we could generate significant revenue. People were coming, having a lovely time. We were getting money for the restoration. It was a fantastic win-win.
It's wonderful, though, that you have been able to create not just sort of a wonderful, I guess, event space, weddings, all of that, but also to keep it part of the community. As you mentioned, school children coming over.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's...
It's so special
hundreds
because
of
when you
schools,
when you
haven't we?
live somewhere like this, you have to share it.
Yeah. Can I get a tour of the rest of the...
Yes.
Yeah, please
That
do.
would be...
Absolutely.
How many rooms in total
Well,
are
there
there?
are 4 floors.
Wow.
Yeah.
And there's lots of little alcoves, but they
Yes.
think this building was probably used for parties, royal banquets.
Right.
There's some theory that people stayed in them, but I think people stayed out in smaller domestic buildings that could be heated, because there are only one huge fireplace on each floor.
It's the original open plan floor plan. You know,
Right.
Corbusier thought he was onto something, whereas we know that it started here.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
And
That's
if
your
you
claim to fame.
wanted to impress people, you invited them here. They came up. If you hired in the building you got, the higher status you were.
Okay.
So normally you were downstairs being dealt with by the constable, but come up to the banqueting floor with the minstrels gallery. That meant you were pretty up there to see the Earl.
Right.
And he was seated by the fireplace that you'll see, and then he has a secret man hiding as security
We'll
guard.
show you that
Okay,
when we get
okay,
there.
all right, should we
let's,
go?
Let's go back in. Yeah.
This is an astonishing building. It stands over 110 feet high, and the walls are over 12 feet thick at their base. Once you're inside, you do feel safe from any attack outside. Well, I hope so, as I'm staying the night.
So we're now going into the dormitory floor as we descend the building. This is the room that we use as our museum at the moment.
Okay, so it's like an exhibition space.
Yes, exactly. And then we have our pièce de résistance, and something that you're going to become very familiar with.
Really?
Because this is where you're going to sleep this evening.
Oh my goodness.
So it's quite good fun, isn't it?
Oh my goodness.
So actually, the
give
best
me the
bit is
history.
you're going to have the whole keep to yourself tonight.
Yeah.
And people can come and stay here as well, and they have the whole keep to themselves. The only place you can do it, where you can have a Norman keep.
So I can walk up and down.
Yes.
I can walk all around tonight.
Yeah, and there are no ghosts.
Well, that was going to be my question. There's you're telling me that.
No,
there's
and the good
great
thing
lady.
is, because of course,
There's no-
because a Norman building, you can't have curtains on the windows because that wouldn't be correct. So if you do feel a little bit sort of needing a bit more coziness, of course, it's very authentic, and
Right.
absolutely the right thing to do is to close the curtains around you, and then you're in this gorgeous, snug bed
gosh.
inside,
I will be.
which is really cozy and really fun. The other thing you might want to do while you're here, because we don't want to keep you unamused, is that you might want to have a bath.
No. What?
So that's
Oh my gosh.
that's your bath.
You're kidding me.
And of course, if you had your glass of champagne or whatever, maybe some De Vere finest gin, you can just have it there. And then we've got the most brilliant bit, something that Jay's made, because
Little
we've
bit
made
tips.
all this ourselves, needless to say,
Yeah.
because that's what we do.
unbelievable.
Just turn around and just glance over there,
Okay.
and the far back is going to turn into the fireplace. And the YouTube have done the hard bit there, obviously.
Oh my gosh.
And then you might want to have a cup of coffee in the morning. So you have to come and have your cup of coffee and
This
your...
is so clever. This is
So-
unbelievable. Okay.
But you know what is the best bit about it is that, okay, it's fun and not fair.
It's so
but
fun.
Historic England let us do this. They were amazing, and they thought, you know what, Norman keeps have got to earn their keep.
Yes.
And so doing something like this gives people an experience, and then they really understand what it feels like.
And you both did this So the thought process was, walk me through it, because of course we're historic house homeowners. We're always trying to think, right, we've got to repair for the roof or the leaks or whatever the next big project is. You're always thinking project, how can I bring in more income to help support these projects in order to preserve this keep?
Well, our real moment was when we put heating in using the biomass boiler, because there were grants to do that in 2015.
Yes. So
a little scary, but we jumped on it. We had a huge amount of digging through all the earthworks, archaeologists watching, got heating in here for the first time in 900 years. And we didn't know how it was going to react, the building, because, it's lime mortar, you have to be really careful with all the flints and everything. Anyway, it seemed to be fine. Drying out the building.
Because it's so warm and cozy in here.
Well, it does, because of the insulation now, and it's never been insulated, because this was all rebuilt out of the fire in 1924. So it's all pretty sturdy, so you can actually jump. You wouldn't normally do that in a normal building, but and we were allowed to do very delicate restoration to all the alcoves and things. And then we went to a props company, and we got amazing props and things. A lot of these were in the TV thing, Merlin.
Okay, yes.
And Knight's Tale, some of the chandeliers downstairs from that film.
What I absolutely love is that this was rather lovely, because we've got this incredible silk mill only 6 miles away in Sudbury, and it's called Gainesborough Silk, and they gave us practically the material for this, because we couldn't have sort of modern looking material. We went through all their rails and found the most traditional things, and it had to look like a patchwork.
Yes.
Because then it looks right, if you see what I mean.
Yes, of course.
So that was rather lovely, because that's rather a nice sort of local...
and it's local, and it's beautiful, and it works well. I'm going to be here tonight. Wow. Incredible. I'm going to send you photos tonight. Just being like, here I am having some of your gin.
In the bath.
Yeah, exactly. I might not send you a bath photo, but... next room, because you're going to give me a little tour, yes?
Come down to the banqueting hall. So this is the banqueting hall, and this is the room that the architects and the historians go completely doolally over, because this is the widest Norman arch in domestic architecture in Western Europe.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I have a lot of questions here, but because it almost looks like it's dividing the two rooms. Was it dividing it at one point or no?
At one point, there's some little damages, so it may have been divided at one point, but we don't think it was permanently divided. But this being the banqueting hall, it's all about status, getting this high up in the building. You had this incredibly dramatic, it was all about a sense of theatre coming up there. The Earl of Oxford would have been sitting.
And the Earl would have sat here next to the fire. So he would have been here.
Goodness.
And then, rather amazingly...
You can be his countess. Why don't you be his countess? Yeah. And you can be the Earl.
I'll be the Earl.
Okay, fantastic.
And can you be the henchman, do you think? Thanks very much. Would that be okay, sir?
That is perfect.
So the reason for having the steps coming up and that additional bit of steps as you come in the room was so that you were out of breath when you arrived at the Earl. So it was all about slightly wrong-footing you. So that you were subservient to him, because he would be sitting there totally relaxed and he'd be going, like this. And so you would be allowed to approach to sort of there, have your audience. And if you got a little bit uppity, unbeknown to him, because he literally can't see, in that alcove, the reason that alcove is there is that the henchman would be sitting in that alcove. And if there was a problem going to happen,
Can I come out now?
Jason would come out and get us.
You can come out now.
So that's what it was for.
Yes.
Apparently.
Yes. Yeah. Isn't that incredible? So all these bits of architecture, and actually with the decoration, you know where you are and which door to go through and all the rest of it, because the door to go through is more decorated than the other door, which is the sort of exit door.
But I feel in here, the banqueting hall, there's so many, you've got the henchmen over there, but there's so many entrances and exits or sort of cubby holes or whatever, little niches there. Is that what they are? They do they lead
Funnily
to
enough,
different
they
rooms?
are actually just niches.
Well,
So
sort
they
of.
would
I
have
mean,
had
that's-
different reasons.
There's a belief that was
Yeah.
the offertory chapel. So he had a little chapel, private chapel in that one.
Right.
He's got the long drop, the garderobe, which is the old-fashioned version of a loo,
Yes.
which was a passage that dropped nearly 70 foot down to the ground, where it was dug out and then taken back up to the first floor and then spread on the fields by a man called the gong fermeur. Delightful job.
Brilliant.
And where everything sat for quite a long period was next to the food and the rats. So the level of hygiene in here was a shocker. And you can imagine dogs, you've got hay, you've got, you know, people chucking bones over their shoulders, a classic kind of really sort of charged men had been at battle, they'd been on a crusade. They were hardcore. Imagine the smell. These were hardcore men. They never washed, you know, they were...
Yeah.
And actually, the fireplaces, which would have been roaring, obviously, there was no chimney. They hadn't invented chimneys yet, although, of course, in Roman times they had invented chimneys. But what they had got wrong here was that the chimney goes out horizontally just above where we can see.
Yes.
And so they didn't draw. So, in fact, the whole room would have been slightly filled with smoke.
That's
But they
right.
think that that was quite a good thing because it would have just gently
Killed the lice.
killed the bugs.
A bit.
But the stone carvings everywhere.
Well,
All-
this is fun. So we talk about proportion and balance. You know, this was one stonemason who was very good at this particular pattern. And this
Right.
is from 1100. That one over there is by another stonemason. They
Didn't get it.
They didn't replicate this. You would have thought for the main fireplace in the castle, they would have perfect
Right,
balance.
yes.
But no, this was, you know, Stephen of Sudbury. He was very good at this shape.
And this is Billy from Braintree.
Billy from Braintree, you know, and they just kind of hacked away and no one minded.
Unbelievable.
And it's rather amazing because this room was built for royalty, essentially coming to massive state banquets, because this was the pinnacle. This family, this was the sort of top level sort of palace, one
Right.
of them. So the king and all his court would come here with a huge retinue. You would have a massive banquet up here. You have to think of this up there with the Tower of London. Absolutely, there's a creme de la creme of society. It would come up those stairs in the early 12th century. But imagine it with the minstrels playing down. Huge trestle tables, lots of people,
Fun.
dogs, the noise
Yeah.
and the music. It was, you know, amazing place for entertaining.
Yeah. And perfect for weddings and perfect for events. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what's so fantastic, because it's replicating sort of what happened, you know, hundreds of
Yeah.
years ago.
And
Fun.
we're
party.
so lucky that this didn't collapse in the fire. That was, you know, it was extraordinary that it survived. Yeah, it was an incredibly intense fire, nearly 100 years ago.
Right. And how much of the keep was destroyed?
All the floors, all the roof, a lot of the armour that was here, storage from the family collection in the house was in here for safekeeping because it was the First World War,
Right.
1914 to 1918.
Essentially, it became a shell.
Yeah.
So everything just burnt inside, but because they didn't put any water on the structure, it didn't
It survived.
Yeah.
Right. For me, I wouldn't have even known that there had been a fire here. That's what's quite impressive, because how you've restored it is fantastic. I mean, these floors.
Well, it was amazing. So 1918 was the fire. They were spotting for Zeppelins with the new terror. Yeah.
Right, yes.
Aerial bombardment of London. They were sending them over from Germany and throwing missiles out of the Zeppelins in London. Everyone was just utterly terrified because there'd been no aerial combat or bombs
yeah.
before. And so they were coming over Essex, and sometimes they'd overshoot the Thames and come up here. And so
get
they were on the
blown,
roof
yeah.
spotting for Zeppelins, and they knocked a little fire brazier over, keeping them warm, and it spread to the whole building. And it was like a sort of chimney. And they couldn't find horses to connect to the fire pump. Eventually they got here and it was too late, so the whole place was let to burn. And by 1924, they decided to rebuild it, the Ministry of Works, who were the sort of government, the early version of English heritage. And so we've got incredibly solid beams. Otherwise, we'd probably have 18th century beams. And if you did that, you would wobble.
Right, right.
And so it would have been a massive multi-million pound, £20 million restoration, because they've tried
Just to get the infrastructure in
Yeah,
place,
which is
had
what's-
the fire not happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they realised how important a building it was then, which is the pre kind of listing,
I was about to say.
which was the
that-
1950s.
Yeah.
And they said, no, we've got to go for it. And when the country was incredibly poor.
I was about to say, because that's what's really perked my ears, because this is before any historic houses started to really open up to the
Yes.
public.
Yeah.
We were instead demolishing them.
All being demolished, yeah.
Pulling them down. but yet they thought, no, this is so important. We have to make sure that we preserve it and that it can be used. Yeah.
They were being blown up, I think, 1 or 2 a week, right through, and we lost 2,000 to 3,000. And it's an incredibly rare survivor.
Well, I'm so happy because I get to spend the night.
We'll see about that tomorrow.
Otherwise you'd be on the floor somewhere.
Exactly. I wouldn't mind the floor. Okay, this is so vast. Now, we're going to come back here for supper.
We are, but
we're not on the ground floor,
No,
obviously.
we're going to
we've
show
got
you.
2 more floors.
2 more floors to go.
Yeah, just be careful on the way down. Okay. They're quite steep.
We're going to go to the garrison floor next.
The transformation of this 900-year-old building into a modern event space and wedding venue is breathtaking. Wow.
So come in here. This is the garrison floor, or the armory.
Okay.
Just through those curtains is the main entrance.
Right.
So if you were a normal citizen, this is as far as you got in the keep. So you were lower status. The higher status you were, the higher you get up a castle.
Okay. So being a viscountess, I could go a little bit
You're
higher.
allowed a little bit higher.
It's quite low, but
you still have to be quite good.
You're not a baroness. Yeah.
Back to this room. So yes.
Again, you have this great...
Another amazing arch.
An amazing arch as well. I mean, that's extraordinary.
Yes.
Just to have one on top of another,
And
right?
you could only do this because of the thickness of the walls. So later on, technology became with flying buttresses, so they got thin walls. But you could only build an arch like this because you've got massive buttresses to hold them in. Otherwise, they would have pushed it all out.
Outside force,
And these exist to take the huge beam. You see one there.
Yes.
And then you'll see downstairs, we've had to hollow out the beam and put in a 3.5-ton steel under this floor, so that we could get rid of the supporting wall below that.
I see.
And actually what we use this room now for, which is really cool, I mean, this just shows how these buildings have to adapt. This is where, if you have a wedding completely in the keep rather than going over to the marquee and the house, this becomes a nightclub. And it's really cool. All the alcoves go different colours. And we call it Norman's the nightclub when we're being
so
silly.
cool. And there's a little bar over
and
there.
there's the bar, exactly.
Beady little eye.
What's amazing is that during COVID, because we didn't have anyone here, because everything stopped dead, Jay said, right, this is the moment to refloor this floor, because people's heels were going through the original pine floor.
Okay.
So it was really important that we did it. He's the carpenter.
So I was about to say, so you did this floor?
I'm Bob the Bad Builder, yes.
Did you?
So, but actually, the joy is, I can stand on the beam.
Right.
Doesn't even wobble.
And dance to AC/DC, and nobody's,
100 people dancing here.
Jason, you did this floor.
I did this floor, yes.
And he's very handy. He made the bar out of the bed heads. I do the sewing.
Well, I was about to say, I was looking around and looking at all of these beautiful designs and these enormous curtains. But you can sew. Can you teach me? Because it's actually one of the things I actually do want to learn.
It's incredibly zen sewing. You can really, but it's very peaceful.
How long did it take you to do both of these?
Well, probably quite a long time. I mean, maybe it took me 3 days, do you think? Because, you know, once you've cut out all the
So you're
the
cutting,
pieces.
okay, wait, so Dimitra, you did all of these?
Yes, designed to look like doors and hinges.
Those look like hinges. And what is amazing, these are scraps from the house, and this is 18th century crewel work.
Yeah, lovely crewel.
Which is beautiful, but rather fragile.
Yeah.
So if you get a drunk wedding guest, you know, so you have to be a bit careful, but you can't be too precious.
Yeah, no, you
but
can't.
That's
and you have to use
another
it. They were old curtains that were just moth-eaten and stuff, so I just cut round the holes and used the bits.
Brilliant. And sort of here, there's these...
well, you see, in these alcoves, we were allowed to put loos.
Come and have a look.
And so it's rather amazing.
But the plumbing...
Complicated, 100 foot up. And so we've got a fake, this is our conduit, which is obviously...
Yes, I see.
Painted, and we were allowed to run all the conduits and the heating and the plumbing and the electrics.
And then I see you've got a grant, which is great.
Amazing. They've been fantastic. Historic Houses Foundation.
Yes.
They don't have the paperwork of the government grants that you can get. You don't have to jump through the hoops. And they trust us as private owners to look after these buildings.
Let me show you one more floor.
I'm excited.
Because we've got the tapestry room to go.
So in my bedroom, I can come down here tonight too, can't
Yeah, you can use
have
every
a little,
floor.
It'll have something from the bar.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm going to lock it, sorry. I've heard stories. Yeah.
So this is what we call the tapestry room.
Okay.
But actually, originally, this was the storeroom. So we are now downstairs. You wouldn't have been able to get into this room from the outside, which you can now, but we'll show you that in a minute. So this is the room that we now use for banquets and that sort of thing for the weddings.
for the weddings.
Yes.
It's too difficult to get food and drink and everything up to the banqueting floor. So we have a trailer that comes and parks outside, a catering trailer, and they can have a fantastic party for 70 or 80 people in here. And it just works brilliantly.
So what did you have to do to this room then?
Gosh, so this is a new floor. Jace has been...
Again, this was
did this floor?
recycled from Southend Pier.
Yeah.
Pretty solid. And we dug down, and there was a massive wall holding up the beam here.
Okay.
That went all the way across.
Oh, right.
We were allowed to take out, you can see the sort of marks here.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
And we were allowed to take it out, and we hollowed out this beam and put in 3.5 tons of steel down the middle, bolted it together. And wow. And again, that was another grant from the Historic Houses Foundation.
Really?
As was all this flint work
Unbelievable.
that we've done. So we've done a huge amount of restoration here because it was over time just dropping a flint or two a week, which it doesn't seem much in the scheme of things. But you know, you want it to be here another 900 years.
Exactly.
Let me show you the thickness of the walls.
Yeah, but first I'm just going to admire these, once again, curtains. Don't tell me, because these are really, did you do these?
I did. But
What?
actually,
How did you?
Well, it's all lots of pieces of material that we found in the attic. So my mother-in-law was amazing at keeping everything. And so these are old curtains that have just been put
How did
together.
you decide the design? And you used a template, but you just drew the template?
I just drew the template and sort of made it up as I went along,
but
really.
It's brilliant. But what was your inspiration? Because it's so
well, so
beautiful.
these were from Perugia. There's an amazing medieval hall in Perugia in Italy, and so I then painted those two.
Okay,
and
so
so
you
this
paint
is
as well.
this is the De Vere
You
shield,
are
and
unbelievable.
that's the England shield, and we've got the Essex shield over there, etc. So, but these shields are really fascinating because these are all there are 25 shields in the room, and they're all the earls or the barons who bullied King John into signing the Magna Carta.
Okay.
And we finished this bit of the restoration in 2015. And so we were celebrating that at the time.
Right.
Have a look at how thick the walls are.
Oh.
So this was
goodness.
a way through the Georgians pushed through this wall. So we can now go out a different way than when we came in.
So the Georgians pushed through here.
They wanted to use this for timber storage because they had to do something with it.
It's just quite a grand garage, really.
Or is it folly?
Yes.
Pointless folly otherwise. So they chiseled this by hand. No dynamite. And you've got to push really hard. Yeah.
Give it a... There we go.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
Rattle, rattle.
Right.
Here we are outside.
Oh my gosh.
So we're now back on the ground floor.
This is fantastic.
We'll let you out.
Yeah, thank you
Unlike
so
the old
much.
days.
No, I'm going to be back up there anyway. Just promise
There
to
we
let me
go.
out tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that was just wonderful. But it's just, you know, it is a magnificent building. It really is.
What a spectacular space for a wedding. The historic atmosphere and drama of the building is mesmerizing. And to have the option to stay too, although I'm a little nervous of being in such a vast historic building alone overnight. As we made our way back to the house, Jason was keen to show me the stunning grounds.
So,
Wow. And the sun is out. I mean, this is a slice of heaven.
well, it's extraordinary. There's a little kind of secret compartment. So we have, it's private, but we share it for the weddings. But it's extraordinary. You can have a full joust going on there, and then we can be here, and you hardly notice it.
It's unbelievable. It's so beautiful, and it looks very manageable.
We try, we don't have enough resources, so our really stretched team just kind of coat. We try and not have herbaceous borders, and it's pretty woolly and wild. A lot of lavender.
I love
Tube prim
it.
instead of box because of the box blight.
Right.
We've got cherries in there.
Do you?
And hydrangeas. We put the fountain in a few years ago because this was the original turning circle.
Okay.
So you're right here at the
That's
house.
right.
It was all about that. But now it's extraordinary that it's turned into gardens. So,
Turned into gardens.
yeah.
And when this was sort of the main entrance, were there other gardens somewhere else?
Well,
on
we're
the
not really
estate,
sure.
or-
It was never formally designed, but it's a landscape that's evolved, obviously, over the last
Yes.
1,000 years. And we know that this was created in the sort of early 1900s when they moved the drive basically from here to around there, and then this became garden. So in sort of,
Okay.
but never massive gardens.
These wonderful gardens open out to reveal a beautiful lakeside setting.
So this was built out of the
magical.
fish ponds. So to get the sand and possibly the clay for the castle, they needed sand for the lime mortar. They dug all these ponds, and this was either 3 to 5 ponds that were left over
Okay.
that were then used for fish ponds in the 12th, 13th century.
Right.
And then in the 18th century, they said, let's knock them through into this. So it's then grown into this.
And did they still then fish, though, in the 18th century from here?
Well, I don't know if they had it as fish food, but in the Norman times, apparently they would have had a tank on the roof of the castle. And in the siege of King John, apparently they were throwing fish down on King John's men just to wind them up. And they possibly had the fish from here put in a fish tank.
Okay.
And then they just lobbed them down just to wind them up. But it's a famous story.
Brilliant.
And so it then became picturesque. And then it's much more capability brownish, even though he was 1760s.
Okay, yes.
So this is a very early formal garden, and then it's become sort of scruffy and
It's not
sort
scruffy,
of
it's beautiful.
scruffy
This
and
is like
picturesque.
my ideal.
The gardens at Hedingham are a tapestry of different atmospheres, with the bog garden forming the magnificent backdrop for the 18th century Dovecote.
This was a very sort of wet garden.
This is
and with
lovely.
Beautiful.
So who did this?
Well, this is always here, and we just try and
Oh.
dig out these ponds
I
every
think it's
year.
fantastic.
And that's the Dovecote.
So that's the Dovecote.
And that
That's
we
in
were helped.
fine
Well,
condition.
it was incredible. We got a grant from Historic Houses Foundation,
Right.
which was then Country House Foundation, because it was going to fall apart like a pack
Okay.
of cards. And they're quite rare because people stopped feeding pigeons or whatever was in them in the 1840s because of the price of wheat. So they all fell apart. No one wanted to keep them. But this, I think because it was part of the garden, the picturesque, they kept it. And we saved it just in time.
Tissue. And how long did that work take to restore that?
They were here for a year or so, I think. I had to
It's a
repoint
big-
everything, take out all the tie pins. My father did the roof in the sort of early 90s.
Did he? It's incredible.
I mean, this is rather mad, this sort of
Yeah.
crazy
Oh
bamboo.
gosh, I didn't even notice this. This is madness.
Yeah. And
Oh.
kids sort of go in. We've had to stop them going in because they
brilliant.
were literally kind of making too many piles. But it's quite fun when the kids are young and you're inside and you scream at them like a bear. They all kind of run off.
This is incredible.
So, this is the Dovecote.
I love a good Dovecote. I do. You know, everybody.
Everyone loves a good
Yeah,
Dovecote.
everybody. So, do the doves still come?
No, we try and keep them out
Right.
because we've bolted them back together
Okay.
to hold them up. But the original nesting boxes, we lost an entire wall there of them.
Oh yes.
And
okay.
this post was what the ladder would go on. So it would swivel around,
Yep.
and then you go up and get the eggs out.
And what was the purpose, though, originally of dovecotes? Was that
Food. So you
That's
either
what I
got
thought.
the breasts off the birds,
Right.
or I think you got the eggs.
Right.
Because there's no fridges, obviously. You might have had an ice house to keep the food
Yes.
cold during the summer. Ice was taken off the lake and put in the hole in the ground in an ice house. We've never found ours.
Right.
But basically, it was the equivalent of fresh meat. Clever
but-
system.
Our culinary tastes may have changed, but as the evening light drew in, we prepared to feast in the banqueting hall of the keep, just as the Earls of Oxford had done centuries before. Dining by candlelight in such wonderful company rounded off a fantastic day at Hedingham Castle. What an amazing building. I could really feel the centuries of rich history. And under Demetra and Jason's guidance, this incredible castle has been transformed into a venue for the 21st century, whilst remaining true to its medieval roots. But how would it feel to spend the night?
Good night, everybody. I'm heading to my room in the 900-year-old Norman keep. And yes, I am excited and I'm not scared. So you might be wondering, like, if I'm a bit nervous. I'm a bit nervous only because I'm by myself. So, but that's just all in my head. I'll try to breathe through that, should be fine. But also, you almost can't even think, or I at least can't think, like, wait, what? I'm staying in a 900-year-old keep, and this is where kings and queens have visited and stayed. King Henry VII, King Henry VIII, Queen Elizabeth I have all been here. And that, to me, is something it's hard for me to get my head around, because I'm not just visiting this place, this vast structure, I'm actually staying here tonight. And then I hear bits of noises. There's like a little bit of flickering of that light. Did you see that? Flickering? It's all fine. Totally fine. And this was built to defend from invaders. So I should feel very safe in here. This is here to protect me. And it will. I'm totally fine with it. Okay, I'm just gonna switch off. I'll see you guys in the morning. I will be here in the morning. Fingers crossed. Staying the night in a 900-year-old castle was certainly an experience. But wow, the sense of rich history was all around. After experiencing the drama of the medieval keep, it's lovely to be in the homely surroundings of Jason and Demetra's beautiful Georgian mansion.
So welcome to the house. This
lovely.
is where we live.
Oh my goodness.
And this is the hall. This is the heart of the house.
Now I can see the big sash windows. So
Yes.
this is, proper Georgian house. Remind me
Absolutely.
again when this was built.
1719.
So it's a little confusing because this is we used to be the front door here. It was
Okay.
all about status. So you'd travel for days, sitting
Yeah.
in the back of your already uncomfortable carriage.
Sorry, how was that?
Now, can you do that again?
Anyway, not on a motorbike. So you turned up here pretty exhausted, and if you had made some money, you wanted everyone to arrive at the grand facade of the house. So
Right.
that is the standard 7-bay Georgian Queen Anne period, which is we've got there. And you want everyone to look at the facade and come in here. This was a stone flagstone floor, very
Okay.
Georgian. And in about 1900, they decided to sort of turn it into more of a drawing room. So
Okay.
make it much more informal. And when we came here, my cousin had it, everything was desperate in the sort of 20th century. 1950s, post-Second World War, didn't know how to make
So
any
did
money.
live here, or did live?
She lived here, yeah.
So
It was
both
great
of
fun
us,
as
yeah.
kids when we came here, because my father inherited it in 1980 when she died. So I was age 12 when we first came here.
Okay.
And it was pretty derelict. None of the curtains matched, all the colours were thing, all the roofs were leaking. And no one sort of came near the house. And in the 90s, I've got a huge family, and it was just a wonderful party house for my brothers and sisters. And my parents were very generous. They live in Dorset. And so we'd
It's a
come
good
here.
place to live.
Best place
What the
to-
eye
yeah.
doesn't see, the heart cannot grieve for.
Exactly
I think, yes. But they were very clever because they hid all the china and everything in a room.
Right, they knew.
And yes,
There's
just
a lot of children, they're going to
and they were
have
firing
fun.
fireworks horizontally down.
So all we had to do was really sort of get the heart back. It wasn't destroyed. We found doors in the cellar, and we found panelling where the lift shaft had been in the cellar. It had been sort of kept, and there was enough furniture just to kind of still create this beautiful home.
Okay.
I inherited in 98.
Right.
We got married in 03, moved here in 2004.
Wow.
Yeah.
And raised your family here.
Yes. So they've all been born here, which
yeah.
is so lovely.
Oh my gosh, that is
Yeah.
lovely. And this is just even listening to this story right now is these stories just continue and continue. Your family, the original sort of your original descendants, if you like, were here 900 years ago because you do descend.
It's a bit mad. We were so related through my family, who are the Earls of Crawford and Barcarus. They're Scottish, but all the aristocracy in those days married each other, so
Yes.
they all kind of knew each other. So, and everyone was incredibly kind of possessive about who their children married. It was all sort of arranged marriages and stuff.
Yes.
And amazingly, so we're related to the descendants of the guys who built this house,
Yes.
and the Earls of Oxford who built the castle.
Yes.
I mean, it's all quite distant, but we can actually trace it all the way back.
Exactly.
Both branches.
900 years. That's incredible.
Yeah. A lot of the good stuff got sold. All the Chippendale
Right.
got sold, and the Applewhite got sold, and the Gainesboroughs got sold. But we have got about 6 generations from the original Ashurst. He was Lord Mayor of London in the 1690s, and he bought this place for his second son.
Okay.
And the idea was, if he bought a nice old castle, it would kind of make the family look a
Elevate
bit
his
posher,
status.
elevate the status.
Yeah, right.
And people are frightfully rude about new mansions, but this, in 1719, was a brand new mansion.
Right.
And he had the old castle.
What did
and-
Walpole say about it?
Horace Walpole, who was
Yeah.
brother of the Prime Minister from Houghton.
And a commentator on
He was
online.
a social commentator, and he said Mr. Ashurst has bought himself a trumpery, a new house, and was very snobbish about it. But actually, classic Georgian.
Classic,
I mean, this
beautiful.
has become the generic building style for millions of houses
Yes.
across,
Yes. It's so beautiful.
red brick, 7 bay, and they've got lovely height. The ceilings are
Such
sort of
gorgeous proportions, all the
15 foot.
rooms. Are
And the
such
paint color, you can see all the colorways, amazing, just lovely.
and it's got, private houses are sort of shabby chic. They've got a kind of worn out feel.
Yeah.
So it's not overdone, and it's had layers of history. So the fact the flagstones have gone is just a lovely thing. We've now got a parquet floor.
Yeah,
And
beautiful.
I'm really glad, because otherwise it would be really cold.
Yes,
And
it
when
would
there's
be.
when there's a nice chip on the skirting, it's because someone's crashed into it with a bicycle,
Right.
rather than.
And that's a story.
Yeah.
And that's a story.
Another story.
That's a story. Well, lovely room. And then where else should we go?
Well, I think we should go into the Ashurst room. And this is named after the family who built this house,
Okay.
this bit of the house. And this was the old Georgian dining room. Right. But when we got here, it didn't look like this at all. It had dark purple walls. So when Natasha was born, and I couldn't really do anything other than look
Were you like,
after
this is the
Tony.
first room I'm doing?
Yes, and I was exploring Sudbury and came across Gainesborough silk, and eventually said to them, well, why do you have a sail rail? And they said, because sometimes, the loom's not busy, or someone returned something that they didn't want to,
Jasper Conrad or something's done it for a London club, does 2 colourways, doesn't like that one.
Yes.
They
Right.
keep the other one.
So I came home and thought about it. Always wanted a silk hung room. So anyway, I asked them if they would play ball. So they sold this to us at cost so that they could come and have parties and show off, which was so brilliant of
Bartering.
them.
We were so bartering
Yeah.
the idea that they would have a lovely party, but we wouldn't charge them. So we got 180 metres of silk.
Yeah,
No.
it was amazing. And Jace, I think you got a stapler, didn't you?
Yeah, I got a sort of...
You hung this.
Yeah, well,
so-
we
What?
just sewed it together.
So you put battens out, and then you put sort of curtain interlining, so the room
Okay.
becomes white and a bit like a padded cell, and then you hang the silk. And this bit from here to here is actually 12 widths of silk.
I cannot believe you did this.
But literally, people, we have to put this up, which is perspex, because everyone with their sticky fingers,
Yes,
if they're
of
having a
course.
wedding here, go, oh, what's this? And in fact, you can see that it's material.
Right. You stitched
But
all of these together.
with a machine.
Yeah, I know, but still. It's wow.
But don't you think it's beautiful?
It's
And this is a really
so-
ancient colour that Gainesborough gave us, that sort of lovely Georgian.
And it's
It's
very
so-
18th century. So
Right.
this is, if you were stinking rich, you would have had silk on your walls, but not in this has to be north facing because it would last
yes,
about
'cause
5 years.
It's pure silk.
So it's
Right.
perfect.
Right, so it's
Yeah.
perfect, so you don't have the damage from the sun.
Yeah. This is a really fun painting because everyone's frightfully rude about people with new houses. But this the Ashursts who'd made a lot of money in London turning up in their Ferrari
Look at that.
or their
Very
Chevrolet, with their brand new
Carriage, yep.
men with their horses and livery, brand new house, the ancient castle, and now it's all considered lovely, sort of tasteful, faded. But in those days, brand new
there are no
mansion,
trees.
you know.
You see, all the trees were all planted. You know, we get.
Yes.
You know, it's all brand new.
This
But
is
it's a real insight into
lovely.
the Ashursts, how it's self-important. I mean, this is a very snazzy
Yes.
phaeton or something,
Yeah,
one
yeah,
of
of
those
course.
really amazing carriages. And it's a fun sort of
That is
insight into
And
their
these
mind.
are the
Beautiful.
Ashursts. This is, you know.
He was
Yeah,
Lord
so
Mayor of
I'm-
London.
So I'm surrounded by the
portraits,
ancestors
yes.
who built this house.
And then we've got Earls of Oxford here too. And then that one's quite fun. That's the 18th Earl.
Okay, so
And,
he's right before the Earls of Oxford die out. Is that
Yes,
right? Because it goes
that's
to
right.
Yes.
20?
It goes,
goes to
1703 was
20,
the 20th.
Okay,
He was the
okay.
18th.
Yeah.
Okay.
And his father was the 17th Earl of Oxford.
And actually,
Okay.
we should go and have a look at his scroll because we've got
So
that
you
to
have
show
some of
you.
you still have a lot of the archive, so it wasn't
Yeah.
destroyed.
We had some of
in
the
fire.
archives.
Well, that's another story. We'll tell you that when we
Okay.
see it because we bought it back.
Oh,
Which is
Yeah.
amazing. Let's go to the
Okay.
dining room and we can show you that.
fantastic.
So this is the dining room,
Beautiful.
which is actually in an earlier house. This is the sort of 17th century house. Been
Okay.
morphed into a Georgian house. And
Right.
our treasure in here is this incredible. It's not a fireplace. I mean, it is now, but this is a royal bed from Edward VI.
No.
And we've got the royal coat of arms there, and this dates to
Yes.
about 1540. He was a very young boy when he got the coronation. And the Earl of Oxford had his coat of arms, which is the boar, because it was the wild pig basically, on the helmet, which is an amazing thing. And these are columns from the four-poster bed.
So when you were the Lord Chamberlain, you were given, as a thank you for organising the coronation, the bed, because there weren't any other gifts really
Well,
to
the
be given.
entire contents of the King's bedchamber, you got the sort of silver bowls and
After
pewter
the
bowls.
coronation,
Yeah.
they were just sort of giving it away. The king didn't want it anymore.
It
He
always went
used
to
it.
the Lord Great Chamberlain.
It was a way of
Did
saying
it?
thank you.
Yeah.
The incredible thing was that this was in the keep, and it was moved to here to create this chimney piece in sort of 1910 or something.
Right.
Really just whiskers before the fire.
Yeah.
So it was
We would have lost
saved.
it.
Incredible. I mean, I love heraldry, so I love looking at coats of arms. I'm just seeing if we're related.
Well, we might be,
Yeah.
who knows? So we've got the flag, the De Vere flag here, which is still flying today. And this star was put on there when they were fighting the Saracens in one of the Crusades. And the star appeared, blinded the Saracens, and they won the victory. So that came back and was then put on his coat of arms. And we still fly it
Incredible.
today.
So
And we have
there
the
you
story
go.
of that, which is
And
That's
look, a
brilliant.
bit more heraldry for the heraldry person.
Yes, yeah,
You ready
me.
to receive
Okay.
this?
Love,
This is,
love.
We do
Oh,
not-
am I going to fall off my perch
yes,
here if I
this
say,
is
yeah, I am?
really special.
Oh my
This
gosh.
doesn't come out very often, I can
No,
promise you.
this is incredibly precious.
Okay.
So
I mean,
this
I just
is-
love heraldry.
This is basically the Earls of Oxford from about 1570 it goes up to.
Oh, it goes
I
up
think-
to. I thought you were going to
Yes.
tell me it starts at 1570, and
No,
I was
Yeah,
going to be
we've got
impressed
it.
with
That's
that.
perfect.
Yes,
Right,
no.
right.
So you have the 17th Earl at this end, but look who he's related to.
You've got the 17th Earl.
He's
wow.
in 1570,
What?
and he hasn't got any children at this point, so it
Okay.
dates it to 1570.
This was done for the glory of him. This was a purely egotistical,
No.
you know,
Well, this is
hurrah.
saying how posh they were as a family.
So this was
Yeah.
done in, what, 16th century?
1570.
Incredible. And
So it
this
shows
has
the-
survived.
yes.
I found the lozenges, everybody.
Yeah.
I found them.
Okay.
We are related.
Okay, let's have a look.
Right there.
Okay.
Brilliant. We've got the
Now.
lozenge.
That's fantastic. Well, it also means that you are related to
We go back to there.
William the Conqueror.
Yeah, we are. We
Who
have
is there?
ours as well. Yeah, we are related.
Which
But you
is
go
rather
much back
fabulous.
further. You go back quite a lot further then.
Well, what is quite fun
So
about
he's there, and then, you know, these guys are
This
all...
is so fun.
that's
Yeah.
William.
That's
and
William.
That's De Vere. Let's have a look. Married. Where is he? Here. That he married Beatrice, who was William's half sister.
Okay, I see. So that's where your line starts.
And William came
This.
over obviously 1066.
Yep.
Hedingham was taken in 1067-ish from Alwine, and he rewarded him because he'd married his sister, and he said, right, you can have...
You can have the land.
You can have the lands.
And then it was his grandson who became the first Earl of Oxford.
And so who gave the title Earl? What?
So that was Empress Matilda.
Empress Matilda.
Oh, that was Empress Matilda.
There was a bit
During
of a
the time
spat
of the
going.
anarchy.
Spat
Okay.
going on.
Yeah, with King Stephen.
This is so much fun.
And it was a miracle this thing
Isn't it
came
beautiful?
back. It had been sitting under someone's chest for 40 years. They got divorced and they were selling the house and someone spotted it, and the auctioneer got in touch with us and said, is this anything to do with you? And we said, yes, it is. And the lady was then going to sell it, and we had a chat to her and pulled some heartstrings, and she sold it back to us rather than putting it in
Really?
auction. This ends with Edward de Vere, the 17th Earl of Oxford.
Okay.
And he was the one who sold all the 74,000 acres, and no one knows why, ended up living in poverty
Right.
in Hackney in London.
Oh.
But there is this theory that he may have been one of the authors or the author of the Shakespeare plays.
Which is why he needed some cash to build the Globe and
Really?
things like that.
And there's a huge support all over the world, a lot of support in America, funny enough. And people...
And why? But why? Why has this come to light? Why do people think that? Or why
He
is
was
it
very
support
well
efforts?
educated. He knew court.
Right.
So he knew all the stories of court. And, you know, there's an awful lot of the history plays and things that, you know, a teacher from Stratford probably wouldn't have known all that detail.
And would he have had access to the level of books that Shakespeare knew? His knowledge was so polymathish. I mean, he
Right.
sort of covered, he knew about Italy firsthand. He just knew about the royal court, he knew about feudal
there are lots of bits
families.
of Virgil that are
Okay.
quoted in it.
Really?
So he was very intelligent and known to be a poet and things. And of course, you weren't allowed, because
No.
he was an aristocrat, to
Right,
be
right.
an author or
Yeah,
anything like
yeah.
that.
And on the back of the, in the first folio, which was the first 700 books ever published of the collection of Shakespeare plays, it says, look not at my face, but look at my words. And in every word spelleth my name. And Evere is Edward de Vere. Evere. In every word spelleth my name.
And Shakespeare,
Oh my gosh.
the De Vere
We've probably got it here,
crest
actually.
is a hand shaking
Shaking a spear. Yeah.
No.
And there's so
What?
many, and you couldn't
Oh my goodness.
you couldn't be seen to be writing the plays because they were treasonable. And
Right.
so if he
Yeah.
was being really rude about the royal family, and then
Right.
in which one is it? And he's a hunchback, you know. And
Oh, well, yes.
You-
Burley
so-
is depicted as...
So it could be, yeah.
and it was treasonable.
Right.
And the son-in-law of Southampton did get locked up for a treason against Queen Elizabeth.
Right. And
got
beheaded.
Beheaded.
Yeah.
So he had to tread a very fine line, and he should have been a leading courtier with Elizabeth, and he ended up selling everything, and no one knows why it all went wrong.
And the really
Oh
sad
my
thing is we
goodness.
don't know where he's buried.
Really?
And we think it's in Hackney, don't we?
Yeah.
But we you know, nobody's too sure because he sort of disappeared.
Right.
But the earldom continued
Yes.
through the chap that we saw in the Asher
Yes.
Stream.
Okay.
But-
He was the
yes,
18th.
But
Okay.
it just sort of had lost its moment
Yeah.
by that stage.
Yeah.
And there's not one manuscript, any Shakespeare play or sonnet in existence. Every single one was destroyed. And it's a very strange thing. And Shakespeare of Stratford, there's, I think, 4 or 7 barely literate signatures in his will. He never mentions a play, a sonnet, or anything. He mentions his second best bed being given to his wife. And there's just so
And
many.
his children couldn't write. So
Odd.
why would you, if you had that amazing
Oh my gosh.
legacy, why would you not teach your children to write?
So
That's
it really
right.
infuriates the people who support Stratford. And I think just debate it. I mean, even if it's
yeah,
not
yeah, yeah,
Edward.
exactly.
And my father collected amazing paintings, and he collected that one, which might actually be the only painting of Shakespeare in existence, because there's the Drew Salute engraving in the first folio, and this was lent to the Shakespeare Authorship Trust in Stratford for many years.
Okay.
And when my father died, we got it back. And they've now said, I mean, this is a Elizabethan man with a beautiful, very high status top. And it's been, it couldn't be proven. And it's now back and it's anonymous, but there's a number of versions of him. And why did they paint this man a lot? And it does relate to the engraving in the first folio. And there's something like 800 copies in the Folger Library in the States, because the Folger or whoever,
Right.
some philanthropist. So we've got to collect all these. And they've got the biggest collection. And they're worth an absolute fortune each book.
Oh my.
And so there is the Drew Salute engraving, but that was done in the 1620s. And Shakespeare of Stratford died in 1615, and so it's posthumous.
Right.
And there is a mask. You can see that he can peel off a mask. And why would you do that as a
Very
portrait?
curious,
It's the strangest portrait when you look at it.
Right.
There's too much smoke and mirrors around it.
Yes.
So of course, it's really important to have the debate, and you have to be very sensitive because not everybody believes that. And actually, just when you go back to this incredible scroll,
It was amazing that he was having to prove himself in 1570, just saying, look at me, I am incredibly royal.
Look at
and this is a
this.
propaganda document.
Well,
So, quite fun.
that is super fun. So thank you.
Like Mapperton, Hedingham Castle is a member house of historic houses. And in November 2024, Jason took on the role of president. Sitting in the garden overlooking that expansive lake, we discussed the incredible work and importance of the organization.
So Jason, historic houses is really, really important for the member houses, but also for the visitors to those houses that are open to the public.
It's an incredible association. I mean, it's been going for 50 years. It has 1,400 members, 300 open to the public. It is the most extraordinary kind of representation of private heritage in this country. And it was down to the likes of Lord Bewley, who lobbied the government, took over 1 million signatures to the Parliament and presented them to the government and said, look, these places are getting demolished. I mean, there was one a week being demolished. And we lost 2,000 at least between 1870 and 1970.
So in 100 years, 2,000 historic houses, stately homes, castles, manors were pulled down.
I mean, the damage, it was so shocking what happened in this country, and it was punitive taxation.
Yep.
And it was, inheritance tax kicked in 1909, people couldn't afford them, and they'd lost their purpose. They're sort of centres of these aristocratic families. But they've had to adapt, and historic houses and the membership are the most innovative and entrepreneurial owners you can imagine, and they're always come up with brilliant ideas. I mean, you're a great example of what people can do, thinking ahead of the box, and we're a lean organisation. We've got an executive in London who work incredibly hard on behalf of the 1,400 houses, and it's unbelievable what they have achieved, raising awareness, getting a big membership to help support the association, and sharing these incredible places.
Exactly, and you mentioned that there's 1,400 sort of house members, and of those 1,400, heritage sites, 300, including Hedingham, including Mapperton, are open to the public. And that's also really, really important to be able to give this access, of course, to these visitors and let them enjoy what we've been able to enjoy. But also, I think it's really important, especially for Mapperton, I think Hedingham, is that we have these events, we've got this visitor income, and we need the visitors to come in to pay for things like the roof, the leaks. I mean, the restoration,
It is unbelievable.
nonstop.
I mean, a survey done very recently basically highlighted our backlog of repairs is £1 billion.
$1 billion.
And it's growing
pounds.
every year. And the only way we can do these repairs is by generating revenue from tourism and commercial events and property rentals. And we have to be absolutely ahead of time, sort of in working out what we can do with these places.
Yes, and so how many, I mean, we contribute, Mapperton contributes to that repair bill because it's just ongoing. And I think as a custodian, you always have to think to yourself, I'll never be able to finish it all. But what you want to try to do is make it better for the next generation, and also make sure that you are preserving it so that visitors, those of us who do open to the public, they can still enjoy the house. We can have those events and it's not in disrepair.
It is extraordinary. So the skills are dying out. So we absolutely got to keep, I mean, there's something like 34,000 jobs within the association that we employ people. So that's an amazing figure.
And that's from stonemasonry to...
Oh, that's staff and that's stonemasons. I mean, the skills that are, involved, whether it's thatchers or stonemasons or glaziers or stained glass restorers or fabric repairs or painting repairers. And we've got to keep them alive because they will die out. And, we are waving the flag for that. But it's desperate. Trying to get people to come through, the apprenticeships are needed. So we employ a lot of people, that's great. We actually generate £1.4 billion for the UK economy. Wow. And when we say 300 are open, actually at least half of the 1,400 are open in some way.
Right.
Most are involved in a charitable way in the local town or the village. They care for the countryside, the woodlands, the footpaths, the cricket pitches. It's much bigger. The reach of these estates is why this country is so incredibly beautiful. We have world-class built heritage. And we're very proud of it, but it comes at a price.
Yeah.
And a price is us working incredibly hard.
Yeah, I've seen what you and Dimitra have done while you've been here. I mean, I can't even believe the amount of work that you have actually done yourself. And I think there's been, in the past, 100 years ago, we wouldn't have touched really anything,
People would walked around with their monocle, sort of, and not really knowing what's going on.
Exactly.
And they had nice rents from their estate.
Yes.
Hedingham is lost his estate. It's been sold to help pay taxation in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s and 80s. And we now are totally reliant on the income we can generate from weddings and from our visitors, our 25,000 visitors. And they're very fragile. That we have to, it's down to the passion of you and me and our incredible membership, the 1,400 houses. And they're quietly doing all the sort of tennis club fundraisers and the church fundraisers. Yes. And people are being very generous to them, and they never shout about it, but it's there. And it's something we should be really proud of in this country.
So looking forward to your presidency, which is 4 years.
Yes.
What are some of your big ideas?
Well, I love the idea of, historic houses and association. Yes, we have about 85,000 members, and it'd be lovely to grow that. But I'd really also like to parallel grow the knowledge of the association, because we're all so passionate and these places are so incredible, but if people understand how fragile they are, often people turn up and think, well, they're stinking rich, they've got a big house, but they've no idea whether you've got a Rembrandt in the drawing room or whether you've got 500 acres, 2 acres or 1,000 acres.
Right.
And people just assume you do. And these places cost so much money to run. The running costs, the energy costs, the utilities, it's all against us at the moment.
Yeah, it really is.
It's getting pretty scary, and I think a lot of places people will go, you know what?
I can't do it anymore.
I can't do it, and they could go on the market, and then we'd lose the public access.
Yeah, you can just look at that map, and you can see all of these wonderful, amazing, stately homes just dotted all up and down the UK.
Yeah.
Well, listen, congratulations. I'm excited for you.
Thank you so much. It's going to be fascinating, and it's a great honour for me to be doing it.
Yeah, it must be, and it's just, for me, a great honour to sit here and sort of pick your brain and see how the next 4 years are going to, hopefully, with your big ideas.
It's been a treat having an absolute master of your world, and we've learned an awful lot from you. It's been a wonderful couple of days.
Well, thank you. Owners of historic houses across the UK are striving to adapt these ancient buildings and estates to become more sustainable. And together with vital restoration work, there is a constant need to innovate.
So we're desperate to sort of improve all our sustainability.
Yes.
And we've done solar, so we've got 42 panels on the roof of the main house.
Fantastic.
Fantastic. And we've got biomass boiler, so
yes, we have
warm.
one of those. Well done.
And this is our latest project, which we cut a hole in a couple of years ago just to see what was under here. We knew it was a well, but we had no
Okay.
idea how big it was.
Okay.
And we're a little bit blown away by the scale of it. So
Okay.
this actually goes down about 40 feet before you hit the water
What?
table.
Oh my, wait, so let me ask though, because at Mapperton, we are not on the mains, so
Okay.
our water comes from the springs, but
Yeah.
are you on the mains here?
Well,
or is it from this well?
So the progression was that this was probably here in the Norman times, and the well's been made bigger, so using spring water. This has then been made bigger in the 18th century when they built the house.
Okay.
So it's 8 foot in diameter, this well. It's absolutely colossal. This.
Yes.
And then what happened, they went on to boreholes in the
Okay.
sort of 1950s,
Yes.
which are here and there and everywhere. Then they had this brilliant thing of nationalised water, and everyone went on the mains
Yes.
if you weren't too far away.
Right.
And we thought, hang on, why don't we see? We've got to get it tested. But there is a vast kind of filter system of land. There is quite intensive agriculture, so you've got to be careful. Of all the fertilizers and pesticides. But if there is enough land to actually filter, we may have got the most incredible castle water right under here.
That's right, and you know, they've been using it since Norman times.
Well,
It's got-
here they've been using it since Norman times, and then they abandoned it all when they did the boreholes.
We did the boreholes in the 50s, and then obviously the mains. So are you thinking of, if this could work, that this could supply water, what, to the keep and to the house?
We think we probably, the well fills up pretty quickly. We've tested it. I built a ladder out of more Southend Pier because I'm obsessed by Southend Pier.
And you're such a
So we've got
carpenter,
a
it's
40-foot
brilliant.
ladder, and then we've been digging it out a bit more. We've gone down about 10 feet, taking out rubble. Haven't found any swords, treasure, helmets.
oh.
That's the next level.
Okay.
Keep our fingers crossed.
It's going to be down there. for
And
sure.
we're hoping we're going to get to the bottom at some point.
Right. So you're not at the bottom. So
Not
can
yet.
I see where you are?
So let me tie you up
Oh,
first.
okay.
We're very, very health and
Health and
safety conscious
safety,
at Hedingham
thank you.
Castle. So let's wrap
okay.
you around a couple of times.
Okay, a
If you
couple of times. Okay,
take
yeah.
that a couple of
Okay,
times.
yeah,
Okay, once more.
Once more.
Just to give
Okay.
me a bit of peace of mind.
Yep. Very
you go.
good. Thanks, Jason.
And that's
yeah,
a
and then
climbing.
hook it. Wait. Okay.
So just do that. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
here,
brilliant.
I don't even. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't climb.
You're not a climber?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay, how's that?
I mean, I feel
Okay.
safe and secure
Yeah,
now.
very
Thank
good.
you.
You're
I
not
think
very,
I-
but you're quite.
Yeah, I think I'd pass.
So
health and
carefully
safety.
on your knees.
Okay. Okay.
And then have a look down there.
Okay.
I can turn on the lights down at the bottom.
Oh my goodness. Wait, there's another ladder down there.
Well, I've
What
dropped
is
some
that?
ladders down because then I can be on, there's a shoulder
Yes, I see the shoulder.
about 40 foot down, which is roughly the water table.
Oh my gosh.
So that I can then lower the pumps
yeah.
down another 15 feet to then pump out the water to then get to the rubble. So that's what I'm removing at the moment.
But what's this contraption here?
Well,
This-
Heath Robinson was this cartoonist inventor and did some brilliant things. And we thought, how do you get oxygen? Because you don't want to get to the bottom and then find it a little
here.
bit lacking in oxygen.
Yeah, I mean,
so
it's super
this is
far
a
down
leaf
there.
blower.
What?
And we rigged it up to a pipe. And
no.
you got this. And it just, lovely oxygen all the way down. And you can kind of feel, you do this.
Wow. Oh my gosh. That
So,
is super clever.
Just makes you get a bit more energy.
And then what's this blue sort of
Well, that's
strap
what we've been using to pump the water out.
to pump the water out?
So it's got
Okay.
about probably 8,000 litres of water in the well,
In
and
the
then
well.
it fills up. Wells is all about how quickly they
Yeah,
replenish.
yeah.
And this fills up about 120 litres an hour. So, a cubic metre of water is 1,000 litres.
Yes,
And we've got to work out our usage here as to whether
Yeah.
it's feasible to use this.
to use this, right.
And also we have to get it tested
Yeah.
because public consumption, and that's twice a year. The council are very sort of strict if you've got
Yeah.
your own private well.
Yeah. But that's the hope.
Praying, and if we can raise some capital to do it, because it's very expensive because the water leaks because it's 300-metre pipe,
Right.
and then have our own system, our own filters, our own pumps, and it would probably taste delicious.
Yeah.
And there is a Norman well that we haven't opened that is stone-lined, built in 1100. Wow. I suspect that's got some proper treasure down
That
it.
is it. That's gonna pay for this.
But to open it up is a huge logistical
Right,
issue and
right.
safety and stuff. This is brilliant because we can just lock this trapdoor and
okay.
we, this is really safe.
What
so.
a fun project.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're off to next.
Where do you want to go? What are you in the mood for?
Well, I heard that there was some foundation of King and Queen Chamber.
Golly. Well, the Great Brick Tower, as it's called on the 1600 map, which is where Henry VII stayed.
Right, so you still have
King's
those
Chamber and the
foundations.
Queen's Chamber.
Really?
And we went to Oxford Hall in Norfolk, and they knew the Beddington family, the Earls of Oxford, and I reckon they said, we'll have one of those, like Hampton Court and
Right. So you still
Eton
have
College.
the foundation? for
Well,
that?
it came out, it sort of appeared out of the ground, and it was a sort of lockdown project, and then we went, oh, this is quite substantial.
Can we go? Can
Yeah,
we go
let's
view?
go and have a look.
Okay.
This is
This, to me, is very exciting.
it. Yeah.
All right, give me the history and how this was uncovered.
Well, we had no idea how extensive it was, and we did a bit of strimming, and we suddenly realised it was actually a really pretty chunky foundation. We'd never really paid it any attention. It was
Right,
partly hidden.
right. So it was
and
there, and then you
It
started
was
doing
kind
some
of there, and
strimming.
we've got a drawing showing an 80-foot tower. So this was built in the 1490s with the bridge and the Tudor Palace and the Great Hall, the other accommodation towers. And
Okay,
this is the
80
principal, 80-foot high, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And looked
Okay.
over one of the medieval deer parks, which is over there. You have
Okay.
to imagine it with no trees because of defence. You had to see where people were coming from. But by this period, England had calmed down a bit, and there weren't need for massive castles. So this was really a kind of luxury bit of accommodation.
Okay.
And if you compare it to Oxford Hall, which is very similar, 2 octagonal towers, one might have had a spiral staircase in it, one might have been the latrine. Well, you've got the King's Chamber and then the Queen's Chamber in Oxford. So we reckon we probably had 2 to 3 or even 4 stories. And it was the principal accommodation for VIP guests. So,
Oh my goodness. So who do you think stayed here?
well, we know that Henry VII, when he came in the 1493 or something after Bosworth, he stayed here for a week, and we just had to assume that he stayed in the King's Chamber. It kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
And it was the sort of, who would have been above him, I don't know, but you had everyone, you had probably 200 or 300 people here
Okay.
on site at that time.
Wow.
You had the minstrels, and you had the cooks, and you had the armourers, and you had the royal entourage that came with him. They were taking over the village.
Oh, my
It'd have been an
goodness.
absolute bonfire of people.
It's just it's astounding for me just to imagine that right now.
Yeah.
That, that's what sort of 500 years ago, you would just have this entire entourage
Yeah.
and
Well,
you're
we
the-
wanted to celebrate, yes, we've got the Norman period, yes, we've got the Georgian period, but it's a kind of odd to have a kind of 600, 700 year gap. So it's like, well, here we are in 1490, let's restore this. So we managed to get a grant, and we were allowed to stabilise it. We weren't allowed to dig down because the foundations go down massively
Right,
underneath
okay.
there and there.
Okay.
And we were allowed to go upwards with similar looking bricks, just to give
Okay.
people an idea of what was here. It's just going to age in time, but at least we've stabilised the bits that are underneath.
Yes, of course.
So there's extraordinary chambers, and we haven't actually dug them down. And there may be some fun things. Maybe Henry dropped something,
Well,
Quite
exactly.
fun.
Because where do you think, though, the sort of ground floor began?
Well, it probably might have begun here. That might have all
Right.
been foundation.
Okay.
And the
okay.
reason that it was a square
Yes.
there was possibly because they just didn't want to waste too many bricks. It might be that simple.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
And that might
right.
have been the octagonal staircase going all the way
going
up.
all the way up.
And it
I
might have been some
see.
useful storage space, but it makes sense to have it here. This is a later wall
Right.
put
Okay.
here, but made up of Tudor bits of the Tudor castle, but mashed together. So there's vertical bricks. It's a right old hodgepodge.
Gosh.
Unfortunately, constantly rolling down the bank. You find chunks,
Amazing.
it's the whole time. That's a nice Tudor brick, but
Yes.
they're everywhere.
So, when do you think, though, this was brought down? Roughly.
So the 17th Earl of Oxford, as I said,
Yep,
he
so
sold
he was-
75,000 acres,
Right.
all his lands, all his castles, ruin. So he died in 1604.
Okay.
We know that Elizabeth was here in 1561, I think
Okay.
it was. So its glory days was sort of 1490, rebuilt
Yeah.
for the next 100 years. It then sort of went downhill. I reckon everyone was robbing it. The De Veres weren't here.
Right.
And it was pretty ruined by the 1660s.
Okay.
So when Sir William Ashurst came along and bought it in 1713, he demolished all the buildings around all the ruins.
Right, oh, the ruins,
And used them
okay.
for the foundations of the Georgian house.
Right.
And kept that as a kind of picturesque ruin, really.
Yes, yes.
And we do actually have a plan of the foundations now. So we've got the ground radar.
Right, okay.
But what we want is to try and get some fundraising to do a three-dimensional interpretation.
Yes.
So you can imagine what it would have looked like, but based on science,
Yes,
not
but-
on
and-
conjecture.
Yes, yes, totally. Brilliant. Wow, well, this is just absolutely fantastic to see.
Well,
And if you ever, you know, do the sort of non-invasive dig,
yeah.
let me know.
Well, the moles do it for us.
Oh, okay.
And occasionally on the rabbits and the badgers. And then we
Exactly,
find,
they're pulling things up.
we always go and investigate.
It's brilliant.
Hedingham Castle is a fascinating mix of the medieval and Georgian periods, all infused with the style and interests of each generation who have called it home. What an extraordinary adventure it's been, and Dimitra had one more treat in store for me, a visit to the nearby historic weaving company, Gainesborough. Dimitra worked with them to recreate the Georgian dining room and the castle keep.
So let's go and find Diane. You're going to love this. This is so special. I'm so excited. And look.
Oh, spotted
we've got
that.
the royal appointment.
That's right.
And look at this. Please ring.
Look at that. You clever clog, or whoever
Isn't this-
designed that.
I know, isn't it amazing?
And
oh, and here's Diane. Hi!
Oh, lovely.
Nice to see you. Nice to meet you, Julie.
Let's hug. Let's hug. We're gonna hug. We're gonna hug.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I just walked in and I saw that, so that has already overexcited me.
Absolutely.
But I had a peek in, Diane. This is the real deal.
This is a proper treasure trove.
Yes.
On a sort of epic industrial level, isn't it? It's just so
definitely, yeah.
exciting.
Oh.
Diane, would you be able to show Julie the archive and the looms?
Okay.
And how it all works?
Yeah, I mean, I love anything archive, but if you're going to show me archive material fabrics,
Okay,
I'm
we'll
in.
go. We'll go there.
Okay.
Calm down.
I know. I gotta breathe. I gotta breathe through
Very
this. This is
exciting.
incredible.
I know. Come and see this.
No. Oh. I've just stepped into my heaven. Oh my gosh.
It's my heaven too. It really is. Poor old Diane has to put up with me all
Okay.
the time coming here.
Diane, I have so many questions. This is unbelievable. But first, okay, a little bit about you. How long have you been here?
I've been here for 33 years this year.
33 years. Do you love working here? Because
I do.
I would love working
The
here.
fact that I'm still here would suggest that yes, I probably do.
And your dog loves working
Yeah, and
here
my
too.
dog work. My dog work. He's the second dog to work for Gainesborough, yes, but yeah.
I would love working here. So how old is Gainesborough Silk?
It was established in 1903,
Okay.
but we've been in these premises since 1924.
I want to just sort of backtrack a bit because with Dimitra, so you came here looking for sort of Georgian silk, is that right?
Yes. Well, I was exploring Sudbury, and Diane was kind enough to let me in.
There aren't many people in
Yes, it was so amazing.
Did you walk in? Was your reaction the
Oh
same
my
as
gosh,
mine?
Totally. Which is why I said you had to come here, because it's just the most amazing place. And it's like this world secret, because what happens here is world class.
Yeah.
And this archive is just like the treasure trove of all time.
So this is where I am right now, Diane. I'm in kind of the, I mean, I
is the archive, yeah.
love archiving. So this is why this is my heaven. So this is the archive room, right?
Yeah.
So what do we have here?
Basically, these are the record books. So basically, every time we create a new fabric, we keep a piece and we record it in these books. And we mark in the books who it was woven for and the date it was woven.
Okay.
And then we also record how it was woven and keep all of the little pieces of yarns that we've dyed, and we keep them in boxes.
Right. So that's what these boxes
Well,
are.
these are fabrics, but at
Okay,
the top
these-
here, so
oh.
some of these are 100 years old, these
Oh.
boxes, hence why they're a bit brown. But we've got more modern boxes stored
my
somewhere else.
This is
So every
amazing.
single fabric is in those boxes
No.
with the fabric and how it's made.
And how it's made. And then does it reference, can I touch this?
Yes, of course, yeah.
So
yeah.
this is like archive, this is like my heaven. So can I ask, Diane, so who are you creating for? Is it, obviously a historic house, Hedingham Castle?
We do a lot of historic houses. Yeah.
Right.
Most of our projects come from interior designers.
Okay.
Or the National Trust, the Royal Household.
Wow.
Yeah.
Quite a lot of your damask is the quintessential beautiful English look,
definitely,
isn't it?
definitely.
I mean, this is
Yeah.
where it comes from.
We specialise in weaving damask.
Yes.
Right, that's your
Yeah,
specialty.
that's our specialty,
Right.
yes.
Well, I just spotted one for St. James's Palace.
Oh, okay.
There we go. That's a little name drop. We're allowed to name
We're
drop,
allowed
aren't
to-
we?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
We've established that.
And
yes.
that was, wow. I mean, it's absolutely exquisite. You've got the Ritz Hotel. I mean, I would just spend all day here. Is it so how do these, I guess, sort of fabrics, the damask, how do they come to be? Does somebody come in here and say, this is the colors we're looking for?
Yeah,
or-
generally there's a period or a style of design, so they want either 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th century design.
Right.
They have a colour scheme in mind.
Right.
And the quality. And the
that's
quality.
my bedroom curtain, isn't it? That one.
Look at
Oh,
that one.
there's the Westminster.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes, it
and
is.
I got it.
Yeah.
I just happened to come across it. That was not a fluke.
I recognise that well.
So they come in here and they say, right, we're looking at sort of Tudor or Georgian, and
Yeah.
we want
I
these
think a lot
colours.
of times there's a colour.
There's a colour.
There is a colour scheme.
Right.
But we can bespoke. We dye everything to match.
This is
the original.
1964, and it's bright lime green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful thing.
It's
isn't
wonderful
it?
just to
Yeah.
see that.
Shows fashions.
It
through
does,
the
it does, it
ages.
does. It's
It does, and it helps designers to come here to see the colours that were being used, because they've only got black and white images generally to
Right,
go from.
right.
You've seen that, won't you?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
That's
And-
interesting.
It's just, you've got Hampton Court Palace, spotted it. This makes me happy.
And if someone needed to replicate something that they've had on the wall for 50 years, and
Yes,
then
we
it's
can do
faded,
that as
Right,
well.
so I
Yeah,
see.
that's what we
So then you
specialise in.
you can do it again,
Yes.
because they've got exactly all the notes, haven't you?
Yeah.
Just
Plus,
all-
also we can go
colours.
to historic houses and we can trace the design on the wall if it's damaged or something. And we can recreate it from that. Yeah.
So interestingly enough, so our family ancestral seat was sold in 1956, but we have a lot of the fabrics.
Oh, wow.
And probably need to be recreated, I think. They're too damaged, a lot of them. So if I brought that in, I could say, I want something similar.
We could
to
do it
this.
exactly the same. Yeah.
You could do exactly the same.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
We'll probably use the same techniques that we used when it was woven originally.
course.
So, yeah, we do everything
Which
here
just
by
makes
hand,
it so special, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Because
I-
you're not.
I want to cry right now. I am so happy.
sweet.
I didn't even know these places existed. You know, the American me, I didn't know. I always wondered when I looked at these fabrics, I thought, how am I going to repair and restore them? Because some of them are too far gone. And yet you're telling me I could just bring them in and it would be done the exact same way. So Dimitra, when you were showing me around your Georgian house, you obviously got fabric from here, but it's also in the keep, is that right?
That's right. Diane was incredibly helpful when it came to the Royal Chamber, because we went to your pre-made rail section,
yes,
didn't you?
yeah.
And we were pulling things out, and it's just like another treasure trove. And we were pulling things out, and Diane was going, no, that doesn't go so well with that one, and that one's not Tudor enough. No, that's too Georgian, and it's too late. And we need early. So we had such fun, didn't we? We were putting them all together. And then we need a bit of green, because it was all getting a bit pink and blue, wasn't it? And you need the green cushion in the room, don't you? Or the other thing to make it look a bit, like it's not been done.
Exactly.
And it was such a nice process. It was such a nice thing to do. And I came back with sort of reels of it in the garden.
Oh yes, more, but yeah.
That is amazing. So you know your fabrics and you kind of know the period. So you 33
There's
years.
nothing she
Just
doesn't
know.
know.
I pretend now.
Yeah, she knows a little tiny bit, don't you?
I know a little bit.
So have you seen the Royal Chamber? Because I spent the night there.
Haven't yet.
You haven't yet?
Dimitra has invited me many times.
You must go.
I will go. I
because
definitely will go.
it's almost like you can't believe that you're spending the night where kings and queens have visited or spent the night. Henry VII. You just think, how am I staying here? Yeah. It's and the curtains, by the way, are fantastic.
Oh, well, that's the main thing.
But can we head out there
we can
and
go
see
the looms? Yeah, no problem.
the looms?
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
and the amazing noise they make,
Oh,
which is one of
that's
my most
incredible.
tingly feelings. So have a look at all of this, isn't it amazing?
I mean, my jaw is to the ground
The
right now.
history here is fantastic. And this is Colin,
Hello.
who is the
Hi.
head loom
Hi.
Extraordinaire, genius.
extraordinaire. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
There's nothing that, weaving can do with it he doesn't know how to do.
Can you tell me, Colin, just a little bit more about the work that you do here? And, I look all around, there's a lot of machinery, there's a lot of, these are the looms and how old they are. There's a lot of questions, I'm sorry. I'm just obviously so overly excited to be here.
The looms are up to about 100 years old.
Right.
But we've got about 3 newer ones.
Okay.
You are.
Yeah. The newest one's about 5 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. I've been working here nearly 40 years and...
Oh my goodness. I mean, this is unbelievable that we're looking at machines that are almost 100 years old, still working today. Do you feel that they're more reliable than the new machinery, or is it they're just so good that that's why you continue to use them?
No, they're more problematic.
Yes.
But we do weave
but they
things.
do weave things better than modern.
Right, so
Yeah.
that's
That's
what
the
we
key
can't,
to it.
What we can't reproduce on the newer machines.
interesting.
It's finer, it's closer together, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
just better material.
It's just better material.
Yeah.
Then, of course it is. So what are you working on here? It's beautiful.
It's a silk warp
Yep,
and 2 ends of cotton
right.
for the weft.
Okay.
And do
Can I see you
so-
have a...
you want to see it weaving?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
This is
Just wait for
I
the
mean, this is
noise. The
unbelievable.
noise is just so evocative of past times.
right, that's what it is. Oh my gosh. No.
I think the shuttle goes up and down, and then something else pushes it.
Right, okay. So you can see he's watching it the whole time.
Really gorgeous seeing the pattern there are.
Yeah, it is. It's almost, it's mesmerizing.
Yeah, so this is all cranking round.
Yeah, you can see it.
Yeah. It's astounding. There we are. How about that?
That was amazing. Oh my goodness, Colin. No, now I understand why you wear headphones. So you don't walk out of here every single day with ears ringing.
After 40 years, I think I'll be pretty deaf.
Yeah, no. But yeah, exactly. That's incredible. So when you're weaving, how many meters are you making per sort of design?
Or per day.
Or per day,
Per
yeah.
day on this one, you're probably doing about 15 metres.
15 metres.
Because it's a higher pick wheel, it's possible to maybe do 20 metres
20 metres.
on a different design.
Right.
So that shows how special it is.
Yeah,
doesn't
that
it?
is just unbelievably special. Well, thank you so much.
You're
and
welcome.
thank you so much for giving up so much of your time just so I could just sit here and be, oohing and awing the whole entire time. So thank you. Thank you so much. Brilliant. And thank you.
Totally mesmeric. Thank you so much, Colin. It's lovely to
Thank
see
you. So nice to meet you, Colin. Thank you.
And you. Thank you. Bye.
It's been such a wonderful visit to Hedingham Castle, and one I will never forget. Having supper and spending the night in the ancient keep where kings and queens have stayed, to hearing how the 17th Earl of Oxford could have been William Shakespeare himself, I've enjoyed every moment. I hope you have too. And if you'd like to support these high-quality productions, do consider becoming an American Viscountess patron. Here you'll get early access and extra content to all of the episodes, as well as a community of like-minded people who love castles, manors, and stately homes just as much as I do. Thank you so much for all your support, and I look forward to seeing you soon for another very special historic house visit. Bye, everybody.